to introduce the mother of one of our committee members, Linda. She is going to share her story about Melanie's fight against cancer.
Hello everyone. I want to take the time to thank everyone for coming tonight and joining us in the fight against cancer. I'll let you know this is not easy for me. I'm not a public speaker. I'm stepping way out of my comfort zone in doing this. But I thought it was important that I share my experience as a caregiver to my daughter Melanie and how we got involved in Relay for Life. In about a little over 2 years ago, Melanie was diagnosed with a cancer called leiomyosarcoma. It's a very rare cancer. It's a soft tissue, smooth muscle cancer. Only about 4 in 1 million people are diagnosed with leiomyosarcoma. The tumor was found in her stomach, which resulted in her having to have surgery on February 14, 2006 to remove the tumor. After surgery, about 3.5 hours of surgery, the doctor came down. We were at Barnes Hospital in St. Louis. Came down and talked to myself, my husband, my other son, daughter, and my son were there. My dad, my brother, 2 of my brothers, and my 2 sister-in-laws. All of us were crammed in the consult room at Barnes. We walked in, and he told us he was able to remove the whole tumor. It was 5 centimeters, about the size of a tangerine. The margins were clear, and it wasn't in her lymph nodes. But the tumor did appear to be cancerous. This was without even testing it. He could already pretty well tell us what his thoughts were. Melanie was in Barnes Hospital for 2 weeks, during which time the tumor was biopsied 3 different times to make sure that it was truly leiomyosarcoma, because it is so rare. They just had to make positive that this is what it was. We went home with that diagnosis. The doctor promised us that he would give her the best treatment possible with the best doctors available. He even presented her case to the Tumor Oncology Board at Barnes Hospital. So everybody had input as to what type of treatment she could and should receive. Once we got home, my role as a caregiver really kicked into gear. Even though I had literally moved into Barnes Hospital and spent 2 weeks living there with her and took care of her a little bit there, when we got home, it really kicked in what I had to do. Providing physical support for her, dressing her incisions, making sure that she ate what little she could, because in also removing the tumor, they removed 1/3 of her stomach. She had to be hooked up to a feeding tube through IV every night, and this stayed in her, ran about 8 to 10 hours a night for about 2 months. During this time, there were numerous doctor visits, meeting with them, discussing what her treatment plan would be. And it was decided that they had to fight this very, very aggressively, because their concern was that some of the cancer cells had already moved and were moving throughout her body. So after a long 8 to 10 weeks of recovery, very, very painful recovery, and many times she told me and family members she wanted to give up. She couldn't go anymore. The pain was so bad. We wouldn't let her do it. I said, no, you're not giving up. Not letting you. No one else let her either. Finally, they came when we could start her radiation treatment. Very strong. She did it 5 days a week for 6 weeks. After that, we had to wait again until she healed from the radiation. Her throat and esophagus were badly burned. The last 2 weeks of treatment, she could hardly eat. So we, again, like I said, waited. And then chemotherapy started mid-July. She did a very intense chemotherapy regimen. Chemotherapy went Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 hours each day. She had 2 weeks off in between each treatment. And then after the second round of treatment, she was back here at school in Mizzou. She's a tough girl. It took a lot of encouragement. It was hard for her to come back to St. Louis, do her week of chemo, and then come back up here to Mizzou for 2 weeks, attend classes, walk around campus. She was very tired. We talked several times a day. Just offering encouragement. She has a strong support group in our family. She has a lot of friends that supported her throughout this whole time. After her second round of chemo, I think the most difficult part came when she started losing her hair. Happened about 12:30 one night. My daughter Leah came in and told me Melanie was crying. I said, why? And she said, you need to come in here. Her hair is starting to fall out. Up until that point, well, I knew she had cancer. It really didn't hit home until then. My husband, her dad got up. We all sat in her room, hugged, cried, and thought, okay, this is another hurdle. We're going to get through it. Everything will be okay. The next day we had another doctor's appointment, and her hair continued just to come out in clumps. There was a wonderful person who we had already contacted, and his offer that he was providing her a wig when the time came. So we called him that day, and because Melanie decided when her hair started falling out, she just didn't want to wait for it to completely fall out. She wanted to go ahead and take the step, get her head shaved. So we did that day. It was very, very emotional. But once it came all off, we cried, held hands, cried. We were sitting there, and her question to me, which kind of broke it up, and was, do I have an ugly, lumpy head? I'm like, no, you don't. I knew at that point that, we were laughing, and it was going to be okay. So, like I said, we got over that hurdle. She went back to school. Beautiful long-haired wig. Nobody could tell the difference. Everybody thought it was still her hair. And she continued with chemotherapy through mid-October. Finally, her first scan was November 20th of 2006. And the results were great. She was clear. There was no signs of cancer. So my role as a caregiver encompassed a lot of things. Like I said, physical support for her, emotional support, spiritual support. And it was this wasn't me. It was her dad, her brother, her sister, her grandma and grandpa who are here tonight, aunts and uncles, cousins, many friends. They were all there supporting us. And it's so important, the role of a caregiver, whether you're the main caregiver or you're one that just comes by and visits and sits, takes that person through their treatment, sits with them during their treatment. Doesn't matter what. You all have to fight and be there and fight back against this horrible disease. I think that's